amendments to the agenda, then maybe not. I make a move to approve the agenda. I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All that in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's been approved. And next we have employee recognition, and Mr. Barnes will handle that.
Well, he happened to not be here tonight, but Stanley Malty has 10 years service for Pickens County. Give him a hand anyway.
Next, we'll have the finance report, so I'll turn that over to Ms. Save.
Okay, this finance report is for the period ending June 30th, so it's for 50% of our 2016 fiscal year. So the expenditure budget should be at 50% or less. The total revenue through June 30th is $5,978,271. That's 25.09. That's normal for this time of year. The majority of our revenue comes in later in the year. For the expenditures, under the general government functions, the expenditures are $1,592,567. That's 50.48. That's slightly over. The general government buildings is at 66%. And that's mainly because we've been doing a lot of renovations so we can rent the building across the street. So that budget may need a budget amendment before the end of the year. Under the judicial budgets, the total judicial functions have spent $1,499,480 so far. That's 44.2%. For public safety, the total public safety expenditures are $5,855,934, and that's 48.18%. Under public works, we have total expenditures of $1,178,721. That's 42.14%. For the health department, the senior center, and the MATS program, expenditures are $318,997, and that's 40.37%. For culture and recreation, the expenditures are $446,530, and that's 48.07%. Under housing and development, the total expenditures are $288,449, and that's 47.5%. So overall, through June 30th, we spent $11,180,678, and that's 46.93%. That's a 3.07% under budget. For the enterprise funds, the water department, the expenditures so far this year are $855,334, and that's 41.38%. The airport expenditures are at $127,332, and that's 33.91%. The line item budget reports were sent to all the department heads and elected officials on July 14th, and I have all those if you would like to look at them. Any questions on the finance report? Okay. I also put a copy of the budget calendar underneath your book. Can you see it? It's right there. I sent out the budgets for fiscal year 2017. I know we're only a little more than halfway through 16, but it's time to start that process again. The front page is our calendar, like the dates that we want to hit so that we can do the advertising and adopt the budget before the end of the year. The second page, if y'all will look at that, that's our commissioner meetings with the department heads. And if y'all see any conflicts in your schedule, if you'll let me know, we can reschedule those. We have about 3 months before we do that in October. Okay.
Good job.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Next on the agenda, we don't have a consent agenda, correct? Do we have anything in old business? Under new business, we have a proclamation, and I will read that to you. It's to make Pickens County a Purple Heart County. So we are very proud of this. Whereas the people of Pickens County have great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served their county and this community, their country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas veterans have paid the high price of freedom by leaving their families, communities, and placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of men and women from Pickens County who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas many men and women in uniform have given their lives while serving in the armed forces. And whereas on April 26, 2014, Governor Nathan Deal officially designated August 7th as Purple Heart Day in Georgia to remember and recognize veterans who are recipients of the Purple Heart Medal. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pickens County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaim Pickens County as a Purple Heart County and proclaim August the 7th, 2016 as Purple Heart Day in Pickens County, honoring the service and sacrifice of our nation's men and women in uniform, wounded or killed by the enemy while serving to protect the freedoms enjoyed by all Americans. And we are going to be placing 4 signs, Purple Heart, designating us Purple Heart City. There will be 2 on the one on the north, one on the south side of 515, and the same on Highway 53. We'll have 2 on 53. And we are fortunate to have some Purple Heart recipients. Would y'all stand, please? To come up and say a few words.
It's always good to be back in historic Pickens County. Many years ago, Cherokee County comprised all the land north and west of Chattahoochee and Chestatee rivers except for Carroll County. On December 5th, 1853, the Georgia General Assembly formed Pickens County out of part of Cherokee County and Yelmer County. Pickens County is named for Andrew Pickens, Revolutionary War hero, a general in the Continental Army. Pickens County is famous for marble, white and pink marble. The pink marble was used to build the elementary schools in the state and also used to build the Lincoln Memorial in Washington. That said, it's always good to be here. We are proud that you've asked us here as we honor all of our brothers and sisters who were killed or wounded while serving to keep our country free. Would you like to present the proclamation and get some pictures taken? We have a cameraman.
Yes.
Also, we have Mr. Mike Kovinsky, the commander of the local chapter in LJ that formed a new chapter. Would you like to come up and say a couple of words, introduce yourself, and let them know that in this area, our chapter is in Rome, and that's a long, hard travel from here to Rome.
Well, thank you all for recognizing the Purple Heart and the combat wounded veterans. And I ask all of you here, if you have friends, neighbors, sons or daughters, or even if you're a descendant of a Purple Heart, someone who was awarded the Purple Heart, come on up to LJ and join us. We're the newest chapter in the probably in the entire nation right now. There are 45,000 members nationwide, and we're the newest one right up the road in LJ. We welcome you. And our meeting's tonight at 7, if you. Don't speak.
Mr. Varner, this one is stolen holiday. Mail to you. I have your email still, where I spoke to you before.
You in the
Yeah, I
picture
told him I was
with,
gonna email.
the wall. Better make it there. Well,
And then Angela from the Pickens Progress will take some also. If you'll come on over here.
That's it.
Do you want to see?
In your way there.
I will do it.
Yeah.
Let's see, yeah, let's see.
They don't know where they want to stay in here, do they? You got me all messed up there. Keep moving around.
Thank you, sir.
And a couple of words, 2 years ago in Denver National Convention, I was authorized to present special recognition awards to special people. The proud supporters attend. I want you to know the governor wears one, Mrs. Governor wears one, the county commissioners, the police chief, the mayors, and several counties and cities all around wear them. We hope that you will wear them proudly to show that we support our brothers and sisters.
You used, man?
Chief,
I got something special for you.
Police, we have one for him. Did you get one, sir?
Come on.
That is the county marshal. We don't have our sheriff. And we need one for Rob, our commission chair.
County commissioner,
Yes.
anyone else, the sheriff of Pickens County.
He's not here, but I'll be
Take
happy
it
to.
to them and tell them. And like I said, in Rome, we were making a presentation that the young lady got in a police uniform. I said, now wear this proudly on your uniform. If anyone says anything about it, tell them the mayor said it's okay and the chief of police said it's okay. I looked on her after and said, chief.
Oh.
We're proud to be here.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. Thank you.
Under action items, we need to approve some minutes. Have you had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes, I have.
Mr. Barnes? Okay. I make a motion that we approve the regular board meeting, which was June the 16th, 2016. I need a second.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Takes care of that. I make a motion to approve the call meeting, which was June 21st, 2016. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. I make a motion to approve the work session, July the 7th, 2016. Need a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Takes care of that. Let's see. Do we have we have a couple of rezoning things.
3 rezones.
Okay, the first one we have, we received an application in the Planning and Development Department on May the 10th by Mary Ellen and Roger Schultz, requesting a change in the land use classification of agricultural to estate residential on a 3.30 acre tract to be located on Sequoia Trail off of Hickory Cove Road, Jasper, Georgia. The intended purpose of the rezone request, if approved, would be to divide a 32.18 acre parcel into two parcels, one being 3.30 and the other 28.88 acres, and rezone the smaller tract to estate residential to enable friends to purchase the property and build their home on it. A public hearing was held on the 11th of July regarding this application in the Pickens County Commissioners meeting room before the Pickens County Planning Commission. After reviewing the application, receiving the staff report to be approved, and to testimony from the applicant's son with no public comments, the Pickens County Planning Commission voted 5 yes and 0 no to approve the rezone request on this parcel. I make a move that we approve this. I need a second.
Second.
Any comments? Okay, so moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the next one is, okay, let me just read this one too. The Pickens County Planning and Development Office received a completed application on May 5th, 2016 by Pickens County staff requesting a change in the land use classification of rural residential to highway business on 2.83 acres located at 1124 Camp Road, Jasper, Georgia. The intended purpose of the rezone request, if approved, would be to correct zoning on this parcel on which an auto service business is located, named Turner Tire. It has been located there since approximately 1989, and surrounding parcels owned by the same are already zoned highway business. A public hearing was held on this on the 11th of July. No public comments were made, and the planning commission voted 5 to approve, 0 to not approve. I think this is just corrected, an error. So I make a move that we approve this, and I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so approved. And then the last one is the Pickens County Planning and Development Office received a completed application on May 31st, 2016 by Tommy Quick requesting a change in the land use classification of rural residential to suburban residential on a 1 acre tract located on Henderson Mountain Road, Fairmount, Georgia. The intended purpose of the rezone request, if approved, is to divide a 3.868 parcel into two parcels, 1 acre tract and 2.868 tract, in order to construct a home on the 1 acre parcel for an employee. A public hearing was held on the 11th of July regarding this application, and after reviewing the application, the Planning Commission voted to approve 5 yes, 0 no. I make a motion that we approve this request.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so approved. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is a resolution reappointing a member to the Pickens County Family and Children's Service Board. Whereas the term of Michael White on the Pickens County Family and Children's Service Board expired on June the 30th, 2016. Now therefore, Michael White is hereby being reappointed to the Pickens County Family Children's Service Board for a 5-year term beginning July 1st, 2016 and ending June 30, 2021. I make the motion that we approve this.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed. And the next one is Whereas the Pickens County Airport Authority legislation was amended so as to reduce the number of members from a 7-member board to a 5-member board. 4 members appointed by the governing authority of Pickens County and 1 member appointed by the Pickens County Development Authority. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the following persons are hereby appointed to the Pickens County Airport Authority for 4-year terms, which began July 22nd, 2016, and end July 31st, 2020. If any of you are here tonight, you can stand. I don't think I've seen any of the members. Mr. Don Bogus, Mr. David Johnson, Mr. Ed Wood, Mr. Paul Boring, thank you, Ed, and Mr. Jerry Edwards is the Pickens County Development Authority appointee. So adopted this 21st day of July 2016. I make a motion that we approve this appointment.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's approved. And the next thing is, this was discussed in the work session, where we need 2 permanent generators for pump stations for emergency use. One of those is located at 694 Pearl Johnson Road, Fairmount, Georgia, and the other one Jerusalem Church Road, Jasper, Georgia. And we had 2 local bids, and I like it. They were both local, from local providers. And the low bid on that was Gen Spring Power, Mr. Clayton Rebel. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve that bid.
Second.
Okay, so moved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Congratulations. Okay. And then the last thing is, Vieira Veritas has been doing some inspection work for us on our homes that have been built. And I'm going to ask Mr. Richard Osborne with Planning and Development to talk about that.
Thank you, Ms. Denny. We've got a good challenge with our staff in planning and development in that we don't have very many employees. We've only got 1 full-time residential inspector, and on days that he's on vacation, that he's sick, that he's in training, there's nobody to do residential inspections currently. And compared to early 2015, the early 2016 number of permits for new single-family homes was up by 81%. So we've got new development on the residential side, and he really needs some help in just a backup. Not every week, but a few times, whether it's 10, 15, 20 days total in the year. And so we really can't justify hiring a new full-time staff member, a second inspector. And so as an alternative, Bureau Veritas, which currently conducts commercial inspections and plan reviews for the county, they're open to a revised agreement in which they, as certified inspectors, would provide residential inspections on an as-needed basis. And as a cost example, if a Bureau Veritas inspector works a normal 8-hour day for 20 days out of the year, it would cost the county $12,000. If the county hires an additional full-time inspector, it's going to cost the county over $30,000. So this would be significant cost savings.
Thank you very much. I make a motion that we accept this service agreement.
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's passed. Thanks, Richard. Okay, we got through the agenda, and now we're down to guests and comments. And we have Mr. Jeff Squires that's going to make comments and give us a presentation.
Switch over there. So I thank the commission for the opportunity to come and present, and all of my neighbors from the Grandview Cove subdivision and all the subdivisions in the area. We all know that last year, Dollar General came in and attempted to get a rezoning request on the property on the other side of the street from the old mountain store that's there at the corner of Cove and Grandview Road. And you'll remember historically the commission, based upon the recommendation of the planning and development team here in the county, voted that down as an inappropriate use of the property. And so now what's happened is Dollar General, actually a contractor, developer from the Calhoun area, has come in and said that he wants to do the same thing on the opposite corner of that intersection. Now, of course, that property is currently zoned HB, highway business. And it was zoned HB back when they put the zoning in place for all these properties, and the owners of the properties could simply say, I want my property zoned this. The commission at that time, sole commissioner, decided to grant that request, and the little business that was in the, the Lost Mountain store, whatever it's called, continued to be able to operate, but now with a highway business zoning certification. So now the county commissioners do not get an opportunity to vote on that, zoning because it's already in place. But that doesn't really change anything. It's just as inappropriate to put a Dollar General store on that corner as it was on the other corner. So some of us in the area got together and said, well, what can we do about it? So I'd like to just very quickly run through these slides here and throw some points that we've made to the Planning and Development Department here at the County Commission's office, at the county government offices here, to kind of just bring everybody up to speed as to where we are on this thing. So here we go. So why, in fact, are these neighborhoods up in arms over this proposal? Well, in fact, we're not against the business being there. Those businesses that have been there, a curio shop, a taxidermy shop, a fitness center, they've all been there and nobody's even thought about them because they're low impact, low volume businesses that have little safety and environmental impact on the neighborhood. This latest proposal, however, has a number of characteristics that make it incompatible with a residential neighborhood. So let's kind of zoom through these issues one by one. Okay, per Dollar General's own website, this size Dollar General store would generate over 114,256 customer visits per annum. Now, if you figure that not every customer visit is going to generate a car, probably around 90,000 to 100,000 visits per year are going to show up as cars per year showing up on that lot. Now, on slide 7, you'll see the reference data that I have from Dollar General's own website that proves this. In order for a store like this to make a profit, the stock must be turned over regularly. This generates many visits per week from Dollar General and vendor suppliers. You can see this at any Dollar General store. They constantly have Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Wonder Bread, you name it, Mayfield Milk, they've got them all coming into their locations. So it's a fact that Cove Road is a number 2 high traffic county road. And it has a very dangerous section as it crosses Long Swamp Creek. Large trucks find it difficult to go up the road. How many times have you been behind a log truck where they frequently block traffic on a dangerous stretch and you're sitting there wondering if somebody's going to rear end you or somebody's going to come around the S-curves and hit somebody? It's a dangerous area. It is so dangerous that there have been numerous accidents on the road. I've got some slides with data on them to show that from the State Patrol and from 911. This includes where vehicles of different types have actually jumped the safety barrier. Now the line that you can't see there is, we need a professional, independent traffic study performed that includes measured traffic volumes. So we really need to know what are we facing here in terms of traffic volumes. That's our opinion. So again, if you look at this, if you look at our county ordinances in this particular chapter of the land development standards, access plan requirements, it says that in all commercial developments where a lot abuts more than one street, the county development officer may require access to be of the street of the lowest classification when necessary to lessen serious congestion on the major street. And what this says is that Cove Road, we all know, has way more traffic than Grandview Road. When you look at the site plan in a minute, you're going to see that their ingress and egress from the property is planned to be on Cove Road. What we're saying is if you were going to develop the property, the ingress and egress ought to stay where it is on Grandview Road, because that is the road of the lesser classification. Now, why is it that the developer didn't do that? He didn't do that because he can't fit the store size that he wants to put on that size property if he turns it around the way it is now. So again, it's an economic issue to him. It's a safety issue to us. It is unquestionable that Cove Road has the higher traffic volume. The traffic study that should be performed will endorse that. The county land developer officer may require that the access be on the lowest classification road to lessen serious congestion. So again, we're asking if the property goes in, that we need to require that the access and egress be as it is today on Grandview Road. Right, now, line of sight issues. An access control plan shall be drawn to scale and shall contain the following information. The distance of sight in each direction from the point of access for a distance of 500 feet. And this is especially important if the ingress and egress is correctly changed to Grandview Road. You will note that they don't have 500 feet of line of sight on Grandview Road. So if they put it on Cove Road, they've got 500 feet. Another reason for them to want to put the ingress and egress on the more dangerous road. All right. So let's talk for a minute about their operational practices. Dollar General has a history, long history of messy appearances of their stores. It's incompatible with residential neighborhoods and actually has code violations of merchandise displays outside of the stores. Dollar General has a history of violating county ordinances concerning delivery practices as well. The pictures you are about to see were taken in Pickens County very recently, and this happens every day at all Dollar General locations. And by the way, also at Family Dollar and all the rest of the dollar stores. They basically all have the same problem. They got to change their stock over frequently in order to make a buck. If you want to see more pictures, we got plenty of them. Here's a vendor not using the loading area. That is a code violation. They're not allowed to park on consumer parking. Okay? Notice the messy appearance of storing items outside of the store. Again, code violation. Here's two vendors not using the loading area. The white block truck is actually blocking the entrance drive. And it's not just their vendors, it's also Dollar General trucks. Here's a Dollar General truck doing the exact same thing. You'll notice that they really can't even get effectively into the loading door that they have built onto this property, because they've got stuff in the area and the truck drivers would have to move their product in and around it. And that is frequently seen at Dollar General stores in and around the area. Here's an example of a code violation where they put materials for sale right in a handicap parking spot. A handicap man should be able to pull up into this parking spot here, put their little thing that comes down and come out there with their power wagon and be able to go in there. This manager of this store obviously does not care for handicapped people to come into their store. Again, here's the back of the one on Church Street. They've got all kinds of trash, but this is actually recyclables. I mean, they're trying to be good eggs at recycling, but look where the recyclables end up. They end up in a messy set of these things. And oh, by the way, you see that concrete pad over there? That's blocking the actual ingress and egress to the door that's intended to be used for deliveries. So basically, this company doesn't give a rip about obeying the rules that are put in place for them to stock their stores. So where do we get this traffic information? We got it from Dollar General's own website. And an industrious member of our community dug this out. Now for a 7,300-foot store, over here on the left, this would generate customers per year of 91,656. If you extrapolate that up to 9,100 square feet, that'd be well over 120,000 customer visits. And I figure most of them are one person coming in a car, but some of them are two people coming in a car. So again, you'd be back down to around 91,000 cars per year generated by that. So if you divide that by 360, you're going to come up with a whole bunch of visits per week. Many hundreds of visits, per day. Many hundreds of visits per day into a Dollar General store. And just think about it. What do you see at a Dollar General store? People constantly coming in and out and in and out. And we can see that from being their neighbors. Again, this proposed store is 9,100 square feet. So the traffic conclusion. We believe and ask that an extensive traffic study be performed at developer's expense so that the county staff and commissioners can study and make a determination whether this intrusion into a residential area makes sense for everybody in Pickens County from a safety perspective, including Dollar General, okay? The current traffic study, which was submitted just a day or so ago by the developer, has errors in it. And the errors are easily demonstrable, including how many visits per day are coming to a Dollar General store. If they can make a mistake on a very simple issue, like how many visits a store is going to get based on square footage, how can we trust what they put down on paper? And by the way, put their engineering stamp on to say that they got it right. What they did was they went into the Georgia DOT regulations and they looked up a business that would be correctly characterized for that type of store. But that's the average of all those types of stores, successful ones and unsuccessful ones. And we all know that Dollar Generals are very successful, so they're going to be on the high end of that estimate, and they simply used the wrong numbers. Now, and I'll be working with the county staff to point out those, what I believe are errors in their judgment. And we really need an independent assessment of the traffic impact here, either done by the county or somebody that the county hires to do it, because I personally don't trust these guys to do the right thing. Note that under the current zoning rules, that the move of this property to highway business done in the past would be denied as this property is not on the state highway. So if they try to get this zoned now, highway business is not allowed unless it's on a state highway. We can ignore this, but it is a safety factor for our day-to-day lives. I don't care that this thing has moved to highway business before the county commissioners got a chance to vote on it, or got a chance to re-vote on it, or don't get a chance to vote on it. It doesn't really matter to me. To me, we need to look at it now. Is this an appropriate use of this property for this traffic situation on a county road, not a highway road? Now note that all the other Dollar Generals are on state highways in Pickens County, 515, 53, and 136. Parking spaces. This is a killer. The preliminary plan shows that the proposed building would be 130 feet by 70 feet for a total of 9,100 square feet. The parking plan submitted does not conform to Pickens County Codes of Ordinances, section 67-1 and so forth, which requires one parking space for 250 square feet for retail stores. So they got to have 36.4 parking spaces. The plan submitted reflects 36 spaces, but 6 of those are beside the building, blocked off by the off-street loading areas. I'll show you a picture of this in a moment. The lot is so small, there is not enough room for the required 36 spaces and a loading area that meets the requirements of the loading area ordinance. So because they've had to turn the building the way they turned it to get it to fit, this is what we're looking at. Right here. Now, this is an eye chart. I'm sorry, I'm old too. But what you got here is 15 and 17 or so parking spots up front. And then up there, in this area right here in the middle, is where they're supposed to have their loading area. Now, the next picture is what you're going to see is much more important. This one right here. There's a zoom in on the loading area. Now, those cross-hatched things that you see there are little dollies that I cut out, right, using my calipers, my micrometer, to show a 14-foot wide, and I only used a 40-foot long trailer, right? That's not a big one, that's a small one, that's a short trailer, okay? Now you see those 6 parking spots over there? How is a citizen gonna get their car into those 6 spots if we've got 2 trucks in there? For that matter, if we've got 1 truck in there, how are they gonna get their cars in those spots? In my opinion, those 6 spots, those 6 parking spots are not valid parking spots. Now, if we go back up, we'll say, well, why aren't they using all that room in the back, right? Well, the answer is because they can't get around to it. To put the store on the lot this way and make it fit, there's actually, up front here, there's a detention pond, which is going to catch all the runoff from the parking lot surface, right, from the hard scrap, right? Well, in the back, there's another detention pond that's going to catch all the runoff coming from the Grandview Code subdivision. I was very worried about this because my property backs right up to this property. What I was worried about was they'd change the lay of the land there and all that water would come back. Well, I'm glad to report that they do have a sensible plan for handling groundwater runoff from the Grandview Code subdivision. But it puts another detention pond back there. It's not shown on this diagram. They can't put anything behind the store because that's where the septic tank, what do you call it?
Drain
Thank
field.
you. That's where the septic tank system sits. You can't build anything on top of a septic tank system. Now, there was some anecdotal information out there about, well, this property would never perk before, why is it perking now? I'm glad to report to you that our state people took that issue to heart. I really think they did a great job. And they got in their little Jeep and went out there with a shovel, and they dug a hole and they perked it themselves. They didn't depend upon the perk test from a vendor that has a vested interest in that perk test passing. They got out there and perk tested themselves. That's the kind of cooperation that I think is good. So now we can say this property does perk. But causing it to perk means that they have to put their store in this way, and they're trying to put 100 pounds of stuff in a 75-pound bag. They just don't have room to fit this size store on this lot. And by the way, they have to reduce the size of the store. What does that do? It reduces their profits. They don't want to reduce the size of their store because they're trying to make a buck. Now, I approve of that. I'm a capitalist, right? But I also don't want them making a buck running over the safety and the environmental needs of the community. Okay. So let's move on. There's the parking spots that will be blocked. Anybody with a caliper can do this. You don't have to be an engineer to do that. Now let's talk about the off-street loading areas. Basically, what this says is that the county ordinances require 2 loading spaces for retail businesses with more than 5,000 square feet of gross floor area. There's simply not adequate space on this property for the required loading areas, and the required loading areas are not shown on the current plan. They've only got 1 loading area. And oh, by the way, they also want to put their dumpster. Their dumpster slab is the place where they want to put if you look at the labeling on that diagram, they want to put their dumpster there too. Sorry, that's going to interfere with proper loading. And another thing, let's talk about this too. In my opinion, somebody should be looking at how those trucks have to move around this lot in order to get into the loading area. In my opinion, again, I think it would be very difficult for truck drivers to back into or pull straight into that loading area. And what's that mean that they're going to do? They're going to do the same thing they do everywhere else. They're going to use consumer parking to park their trucks because there's simply not enough room. I want to see some analysis done as to how they're going to move those trucks around on this lot. Again, appropriate use, if we were zoning this for highway business and it's located on a high, busy county-maintained road, the Pickens County Code of Ordinances states that generally highway commercial districts are considered unsuitable abutting single-family residential districts because of the uses permitted in the district and their associated off-site impacts. This is what should be driving, in my opinion, the county staff's analysis of this, okay? The ordinance isn't going to, the zoning isn't going to support it, but again, appropriate use. Is this the right thing to do for the safety of the citizens of Pickens County? This should be their guiding principle, in my opinion. So, what are we asking the county commissioners? And by the way, I want to say this, our county staff and our county commissioners have been terrific. And I believe they've been terrific to us and terrific to the developer, representing both sides impartially, right? I think we've got the facts lined up on our side with the presentation with the proposal that's currently submitted. But I don't want anybody to get the idea here that we should be attacking these people. I don't want to say that they've been on our side, but they've been open to input and open to working with us, right? And I don't know which way this is going to go in the future, but I personally can't complain about my treatment or the treatment of anybody that I know of that's been working with them on a day-by-day basis. So, but here's what we're asking. We want you to require, please, a comprehensive traffic study, not performed by the developer or his engineering team, that takes a look at the ingress and egress analysis and the line of sight analysis for the Grandview Cove ingress and egress issues, right? Then, before issuing any land disturbance or building permits, instruct the county staff to require, review, and make public comment on these issues: traffic safety, parking space allotments, off-street loading areas, and appropriate use, right? And we feel that these decisions must be public and transparent so that not only do we understand how they were made, but why they were made. I want to see the analysis that shows that a trucker can move his truck around on that lot effectively. Now, I'm not a civil engineer, I'm not a mechanical engineer. I have to be an electrical engineer by trade. But you don't have to be an engineer to understand parking a truck, right? This is something that everybody in this room can understand very easily. This is simply a data slide, and I'm sorry, Jim. Jim was nice enough to get our 911 center calls put together for us. He was my law enforcement officer here on the county staff, or he was my touch point for law enforcement issues. I didn't get the 911 center, but the Georgia State Patrol worked 95 accidents there in 5 years, and on Cove Road, and the Georgia State and the 911 people, which is basically the city of Jasper, right? They worked 127, I believe, over 5 years. So there's been many hundreds of accidents on these roads. So as I finish, I want to just do one thing here to the crowd. If you are against the development of that property by Dollar General, would you just raise your hand? Okay, now I want to be fair, put your hands down. If you are for the development of the Dollar General property on that property, would you raise your hands? Now, by the way, we had somebody who was getting a petition, Alba Dove, you all may know Alba. She's such a shy flower. She hands a petition to this lady, says, well, would you sign? She says, no, I want a Dollar General there. She says, well, when it snows, it'll be easier to get there than to go all the way down to town for. So there are people that have an opposing opinion on this. I don't agree with their opinion, but that's one. Now, my charge to the county commissioners is this, I ask, right? So, y'all know about the Greek city-states, right? Sparta, you know, and all those Greek cities. So the Spartans were known as the most warlike, you know, city-state, right? Well, Athens and Sparta, all those things. And when the young men were going out to battle, they would come up to their wives or their daughters and ask for their blessing. And the wives or daughter had a statement they used to say to the warriors. They'd say, come back with your shield or on it. Come back with your shield or on it. And that's kind of what I'd say to the county commissioners. We're your constituents. You know, if this development goes in, one person's going to be happy, one company. That'll be the development company. I don't really believe that Dollar General gives a rip whether they have a store exactly there, okay? But he'll be happy, and all the rest of these constituents are going to be unhappy. And one thing I've noticed about our political leadership, and this is not a negative comment, this is a positive comment, they count really good. They count really good. So, Jerry and Becky, thank you for the staff's cooperation and your willingness to listen to this presentation.
Thank you so much. For planning and development to let everyone know where we stand in the process at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Denny. Just as a status update, the federal folks in Calhoun, there's a regional office of a branch of the USDA called the Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS. So NRCS staff, these federal folks, they review the erosion and sediment control plans. They are currently reviewing those plans that are part of the civil plans. So until they have finished their review, because they may deny them, they may provide comments to the developer, but it's up to the developer to get those plans approved at the federal level first before we do any local review. So that's where we stand. We have not heard back from the federal folks yet.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a few minutes more. Any more comments from the guests? Doug?
At this point in time, the Cove area up in the section that we're talking about is a pretty highly taxed area right now. You can ask the people around through here that has property adjoining or close to it and everything. Is the county prepared to reduce our taxes due to the devaluation of the money? Mr. Dobbs, that's right.
Thanks, Doug. Anyone else have any questions? I think it's been a great presentation.
Who is the developer in Calhoun?
The developer?
Yeah, I mean, who is?
There's a
what's
piece
the
of
name?
paper here, I'll show you, come up at the front, his name and address and all that stuff, it's right there on the piece of paper. I'll show you.
Okay. If that's it. We appreciate you being here, and this meeting is now adjourned.